Yeah. There's Android, and then there's server, and it's just the screen.
But then it also was a similar slope from Tuesday, so from Wednesday to Friday. The first week of Wednesday,
Yeah, it was one Wednesday.
yeah, and then like
No, I think it was Thursday.
a
It's actually, I thought it was Thursday.
Angular was Angular was fine if you knew what you were doing.
Alright, WebDev is live.
If you already knew what you're doing,
I mean, honestly, I was never pretty nice
yeah, I'm just going for
Yeah, like the Android one wasn't even really based around app.
Yeah.
It's mostly
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not going to get
Yeah, no one really teaches you stuff about like man line and Git and all of that stuff. That really useful for a lot. I was one of these, and that was yesterday from that much homework, and I can't even code iOS, so that's eventually I'll get
slang.
Yeah.
Random have a Mac, so, yeah. And I'm more interested in Android.
By the way, you were getting stuff to the website, should now be available. The GitHub stuff to the website, so we got a couple of up to first off. You should now go find them.
I've heard that like iOS, like getting into it can be a little, just like even setting it up. You have to create. You can't make.
you have to make it happen.
You can't make the dot app. You can like code it. You still can't build the app.
You can code, but then
Oh right. You can code it. You can write out the letter.
You can't run it.
just like
My dad says it's like serious, like Devin, you gotta get into this. He takes over C++. So 15 square times. Yeah, I hope that Swift just takes over C++.
But if you get off of iOS,
it's like better than
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. It's really intelligent, really fast, and really small. Especially Swift.
I'll be honest.
Yeah,
The first two versions, that was great.
I know, like, I thought the entire life finished the entire thing.
Nice.
It's bad. So Swift is like 745, 730.
it's going to be.
The issue is that when you make an
Well, I think, I've just got to compose that stuff.
Yeah, but they always have Red Swift 3, and it's good. It's a good place. So it's got on. How do you say it? It compiles as soon as you do anything. Like you have a view that's always active. It's a really great language, but it doesn't need semicolons.
They should collect them off.
It's really intelligent.
Yeah, I saw it said
the first version of X,
Alright, shall we get started? Before.
We're gonna get started. Thanks for coming. This is Manish. He's the president of the WebDev Club. Let's go ahead and shut that music off. Yeah, there you go. This is Manish. He's the president of the WebDev Club here at Purdue. He's going to go over a really cool talk to get you guys started on the absolute basics of web development. Again, if some of this stuff that he says tonight, too fast or goes over your head, we have a good book for you guys to follow along at helloworld.purduehackers.com/resources. Great, Manish, go ahead.
Alright, feel free to follow along from at home too and that sort of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, as Will elegantly said, I'm part of the WebDev Club.
So I'm the president. As the president, I make sure everything's going well in the club overall. But I also make the content as well as make sure all the teaching and all those resources are up to date. And as a part of our initiative to teach all of you guys, anyone who wants to learn WebDev, we decided we should help out with Hello World and teach you guys something pretty cool. So I think my plan. So I'm going to go through and kind of walk through a little bit of the Gitbook app itself. And so it's kind of just to make sure that I don't forget something, or if I don't teach something that I don't intend on teaching. And so basically what it's going to be about is it's going to be this page where it's going to have, okay, so part of that didn't load, but okay. We have the welcome page, which is that hello friend, and we have just some text underneath it, and then a proceed button, which goes next to a list of some pretty cool shows and movies. Star Wars is great. That's why it's my favorite on there. So we chose this because who doesn't like TV shows? Who doesn't like movies? And we thought it would be a very good basic project because as the WebDev Club realizes that a lot of these different topics that people are going to talk about might go over your head, and we want to make sure that we introduce these kinds of topics in a better way that actually makes a lot of sense. So we're going to make sure that we teach you guys a lot of things that should be pretty basic, and you guys should be able to follow along pretty easily with. Okay, so I'm going to first do a little bit of introduction of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And so, yeah, as I said, this is all going to be in the Gitbook, so if you guys want to follow along for the next 10-15 minutes on here, go for it. So we have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So today I'm going to go over more of HTML and CSS. We didn't write that much JavaScript into the app itself because JavaScript gets a little bit complicated. But yeah, so HTML and CSS. HTML is basically your skeleton for your website. You can't have a website without having HTML code on there, unless you want to write a Flash website for whatever reason and don't want to be compatible with mobile devices. But you have HTML, which is your skeleton. It's basically going to organize your website and show links and show your text. And then you have CSS. CSS stands for cascading style sheets, which basically means that it tries to style up your website. Without CSS, your page is basically going to look like crap, to put it in light terms. So let's go and hit next. Just some prereq knowledge. So we have frameworks, and we have Bootstrap. So basically, what is Bootstrap? Bootstrap is basically a framework. Frameworks basically help you make things a lot easier. It makes your life a lot easier. So you can use frameworks to do things that would require you a really long time. So frameworks, if you think about it, are a library, things that you can just use off the shelf and, as I said, make your life easier. Bootstrap is basically just a collection of files, but we're basically just going to use the CSS file today. It's basically just one single file that we're going to use, and we're going to call that a framework. It gives us a lot of tools, as I said, stylized buttons, stylized header elements, and all of that. And we're using it mainly because it's become a standard, and it allows us not to have to write a crap ton of CSS for no reason. Because every single site is going to have a certain guideline or a certain set of elements that it's going to have, right? So might as well just use Bootstrap without having to rewrite all of those elements, all that CSS over again. So HTML, there are different tags. We have a basic HTML body and div website right over here. So the HTML, actually, before I go on and talk about different elements, every single page you make is going to have different elements in it, and it's going to have to start with HTML, the HTML tag. And so you can see there's a starting tag and an ending tag. You can tell the difference between a starting tag and an ending tag because HTML has these symbols in front and at the end of it, but then also the ending tag has the slash in front of the HTML. And then, same for body. Body has the starting, but then the ending also has the same thing, except for a slash in front of the element name. And then we have a div. Divs are basically containers for different things. They can be containers for text. They can be containers for other HTML elements. And as I said before, it has the regular starting and closing syntax over there. All right. So, and then obviously the body is where a lot of your the main content of your page is going to be. We have divs. As I said, divs are containers. You can have as many divs as you want. I would not recommend having a div within a div and have text within that because there's no reason. I mean, if you want to have text, then either use a different element or just have one div and then text in there. Like there's no point in having containers within containers within containers if you have, if you're just trying to show text at the very bottom. If you want to show text, you might as well just use a div and then text inside there. There's no point in, creating a div within divs within divs within divs. It just give everyone a headache doing that. And use your common sense. Basically, like people usually ask, okay, when do I want to have a div? I mean, it doesn't really matter when you use a div and when you don't. It really matters when you want to make sure that you want to add CSS to a certain block of elements. That makes sense to have some kind of parent element to it. So, for example, if I had multiple elements that I wanted to have together and apply, and change the color to white, then you would probably have a container div outside of those elements. If that's going over your head, that's okay. We're going to go ahead and make an example site. And the idea with a lot of these topics is that you're going to actually be able to go along and follow some of it, but the stuff that you don't, it's fine. You can actually do a lot more practice, and you'll be able to follow it along a lot better. So a lot of these things just take a lot of practice. So the next couple of things are the header tags, paragraph tags, and then bold and italic tags. So header tags range from H1 to H6, H1 being the biggest text, and then H6 being the smallest text. And so we have H1s are different from just regular text because you can have really bold. Sorry? Did you?
No.
Okay, sorry. I thought you had a question. So we have H1s are different from other text because H1s add like some extra CSS and styling to it automatically as a default of HTML. So if you had Hello World is in large font with H1, it'll actually be in large font and bolded and everything. If you had it in a paragraph, it would actually be in smaller font and with kind of different styling. So whatever divs or whatever elements that you guys choose to have will have different like styling to them. And then we have next paragraph tags. Paragraphs are basically when you want to have large sums of text. So we have this ridiculous long lorem ipsum right over here, just to kind of show that you can have paragraph tags with that large element. And then we have bold and italic tags. And bold and italic tags just do basically what you would think they would do. Strong is basically to make sure that your text is bold, and then EM is to make sure that your text is italicized. And then we have anchor tags here. Anchor tags basically link you to different pages, whether it's another page inside your website itself, or if it's a link to an external site. And then we have attributes, and then we have tabbing and spacing. We'll just go over attributes real quick. Attributes basically kind of give properties to your different HTML elements, and your href right here is one of the attributes, and that's going to tell HTML where exactly to link to. So the rest I'm going to try it and go ahead and explain it as I'm writing the website itself. If you guys want to follow along the Gitbook, that'd be great. I'm going to go ahead and put the laptop on both screens. This actually gonna work. There we go. Sweet. All I had to do was point. Okay. So let's see. So if you guys want to, you can go ahead and create your own like separate directory for this, or as in a different folder. So I'm going to go ahead and start writing this site from scratch and explain exactly how to do all of this. So let's see. Okay, so I'm actually going to start out with the styles.css because I hate writing CSS, and CSS it's not very logical sometimes. You kind of have to think with a designer's mind, and I think more of in a programming perspective. So CSS sometimes doesn't make that much sense in random situations. So so I'm going to just go ahead and show you what's in my styles.css. I have just some regular CSS with two different classes, bg-home, and then we have center-all. And then we have one property being applied to two different types of elements. So if there's a dot in front here, you know that we're creating a class. And then if you don't have a dot, like if you just have HTML or if you just have like body like this, then you know it's an element that's being selected. And so these are what we call selectors. Selectors basically show, they allow CSS to realize where all of these different properties and all that need to be applied to in your HTML. More about that later. So I'm going to go ahead and create an index.html. Your index.html is going to show, nice, okay. Your index.html is basically going to show you what your home page is going to be usually for your website. It's going to be usually your first page that anyone's going to visit. And I'm going to go ahead and create a head part of my HTML and then give it a title. And I'll just give it a title of Hello World. Alright, Hello World is basically this title right here is going to be what shows up. Let me increase that font, sorry. Hello World is basically what's going to show up in your Chrome tab. So, right up here. Okay, so, alright. So I have HTML tag, a head, and a title tag. Remember, all of these need to have ending tags to them. So you can't, it's probably not the best idea to have a title starting tag without a title ending. And then, so we're actually going to have a body tag added to this. And then we're going to add some text saying hello world. And I'm actually going to contain that inside a container. There's no specific logical reason why I'm doing that at this step. I will need it in future cases. And I'm actually going to change the title to be something else so it doesn't confuse you guys. And I'll just say movies and TV shows. Alright, so let's go ahead and see what this looks like. Alright. Alright, cool. We have a basic HTML site that's going on. That's pretty fancy, right? Hello world. That's it. I'm going home. Just kidding. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue our work. We want to stylize this a lot better. And this actually proves my point where we don't have like any CSS or anything going on. Yeah.
Don't you have an icon?
Oh yeah, so that's because Chrome automatically does caching for your icons and tabs, and so it just like kept that in the memory for whatever reason. It caches these elements very aggressively, and if I restarted or reset Chrome, it would probably look normal, but I didn't feel like changing all my settings and removing all of those different things just so that I could get rid of that icon over there. Okay, so let's go back, and yeah, as I said before, if you don't have any CSS styling, it kind of makes the page a little bit boring. So let's go ahead and add some CSS. That's what our styles.css is for. So if you guys didn't notice, I'm actually using something called Vim as my text editor. Text editors are different from IDEs. IDEs contain text editors, but IDEs have like a bunch of smart functions and everything. Text editors are basically just there to like edit different files. They don't do anything really else unless you add a bunch of plugins and everything to them. You can use something besides Vim. Most of you guys on Windows machines probably don't have it. I would recommend to you guys probably Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code, not just regular Visual Studio. Don't do that to yourselves. You guys aren't Windows developers. And so let's go ahead and continue with some of this stuff. So let me just explain real quick. You having this comma in between the HTML and the body basically says, okay, let's find all the HTML elements and apply this property and value to it. So we find an HTML tag, and this height colon 100% is automatically applied to that. And I can actually show you that in the browser if we have time. And we have this comma and then a body. So the comma basically means we want this set of CSS applied to different places. So we have the body. So we want to also apply this height colon 100% to the body element as well. And then we have this bg-home class over here, and this is basically going to be applied to wherever we have class equals bg-home applied. But because we don't have that applied yet, that CSS hasn't been applied to the page yet. And then we have this center-all class. So there are two things to classes. One is to create your class in your styles.css, and the other thing is to make sure that you actually add your class or use your class in your HTML. So let's go ahead and do that. So this bg-home consists of this background colon URL. If you guys didn't notice, that actually is going to change your background. You having this URL in here and then having parentheses around your URL is basically telling CSS and HTML, okay, I want to select whatever elements have the class of bg-home and apply this background URL to it. And I'm also applying this background size cover to it. And so I'm going to go ahead and apply that to the body because I want to change the background and everything for the body to be this URL, this image. And also make sure that the URL that you choose is actually an image. Like if you guys actually accidentally add like an HTML, if you added google.com to this instead of an actual JPEG or an actual image, it won't actually change the color, the background for you. So I'll go ahead and save everything for you and show what it looks like. Oh yeah, I didn't even import. Nice. Okay, sorry, I didn't import my my CSS. So you do styles, that's CSS, and then you do rel is equal to style sheet. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So I kind of lied to you guys before when I said you always need to have an ending tag. There's some stupid elements in HTML that don't actually have an ending tag. They're the two that I can think of at the top of my head are link tags as well as image tags. Why they would do that? I mean, some cases it makes sense, some cases it doesn't, but mainly because you don't want to have information between your your two image starting and ending tags. But anyways, it doesn't really matter because we're not talking about how HTML is designed. So we have this link href is equal to styles.css. So href basically tells HTML where to get the styles or where to get your CSS from, your CSS file. So we have href equals styles.css is basically telling your HTML to go ahead and grab styles.css and import it. And then we have rel is equal to style sheet so that HTML actually knows what kind of file this is. It's a style sheet.
Yeah. Does the link href, does that have to be in the head tag? Can it be outside?
You can put it in the Actually, I don't remember ever putting it in the body
Okay.
and it working. I know you can put script tags either way in head and body, but I mean, I honestly don't remember it. I remember trying that such a long time ago. But like the thing is, if you keep doing things the right way, you'll forget what the wrong way is. So that's kind of why I don't remember if link can be added to the body. But the short answer is don't actually put it in the body.
Can we put in the HTML tag though? Does it have to be?
I think it has to be in the head.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe if you put the way these renderers work in your browsers is if you move the link in an invalid place, your HTML renderer will most likely try to put it in some logical place for you. So your browser will automatically think, okay, you put this in the wrong place. I'm going to assume that you put it in the right place. Okay. So as I said before, there are two components to having your class. You have bg-home over here, but this CSS won't be applied unless you actually create the class here in your styles.css. And having the dot in front is basically telling you, it's telling CSS that we're actually creating a CSS class. All right. Okay, so this is what we've got so far. It looks better than before, but we can still do better. I'm going to go ahead and apply this class. Class is equal to white here on our index.html, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing down here and create that class. It's also very important that you spell both color and white correctly. I just did dot class. bg-home. All right, there we go. So we have dot white, and then we want to save this as well. Okay, so we went ahead and changed the actual HTML, the CSS color of the HTML tag. Let's go ahead and we want to make sure it's kind of centered in the page because it kind of looks awkward in the top left corner. So let's go ahead and center it horizontally as well as vertically. Okay, the system just turned off for whatever reason. Okay. Let's try that again. Okay, that worked on that. Okay, all right. Not sure why that happened, but okay, let's see. Okay, so yeah, it kind of looks kind of awkward in the top left corner. So let's go ahead and change some things a bit. So I actually don't want to write the CSS myself. So I'm going to kind of cheat and let's go ahead and grab Bootstrap. So you grab Bootstrap from getbootstrap.com/getting started. You can download it and go through the hard way, but for now I'm just going to tell you to go ahead and copy this top part over here and add it to your head. And actually, usually you want to have your styles.css below your actual your other style sheets. So
where did you get that?
it's under getting started for getbootstrap.com. Yep. Okay. And if you guys have any questions while you're going through this, you can actually contact me or anyone who's a part of the WebDev Club. The WebDev Club's email is wdc@purdue.edu. If you don't remember that, I'm sure you guys can get the contact information of people who are in Purdue hackers.
Or just come to Hello World this weekend and we'll have mentors there.
Yeah, that works too.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I went ahead and imported this framework right here, and I actually think we have that. Yeah. Okay, so we actually have a style sheet up here, and that's actually Bootstrap that we imported. And so as you can see, it's not really that much different from our regular CSS file. It's just basically we're telling HTML to go ahead and grab this from a website. All right. Well, so that's pretty cool. Let's actually use Bootstrap. So it's apply the class text dash center. All right, and let's see what that looks like. That's the wrong thing. Let's see. There we go. Cool. So we actually got the text to get centered a little bit. So we want to actually put this also in the immediate center of the page. So let's add some CSS to that as well. We want to do center-all. Center-all is just this chunk of CSS that basically just centers everything on the page. And so we have hello world in the center of the page. Great, right? But here's the thing. We have different pages that we want to create. Page 1, page 2, or whatever we want to call them. But how are we going to access them from your, from this site, from this web page?
How did you get center all?
Oh, it's a CSS class that I made myself. Oh, it's on the right.
Yeah, where do you add it?
Oh, where did I add it? I added it to this div right here. So I added it to the div to make sure.
You can have 2 of them like that?
Yes, yeah. So you can add multiple classes just by putting spaces in between them. And so we have center-all, and basically center-all is centering all of the elements in your page and in that div. So center-all will only be applied to whatever is inside this div tag here. So if we had something over here, so if we had something like, I don't know, hi over here, it won't actually be applied to that. So it's actually at this top left corner over here. So the reasoning behind that is because we didn't actually apply the center-all to the body up here. If we applied to the body up here, then everything inside of the body itself will automatically be centered. So it basically the CSS, the classes, and all those properties kind of cascade down, and they only work on things that are within that HTML element itself. So in other words, the center-all is only going to be applied, or it's only going to be working on HTML elements that are going to be within this div here. It won't be applied to anything that's outside of this div. Okay, so we have our first page almost done. Let's go ahead and add another, let's add a button that's going to link to page1.html. We haven't made page1.html, but we're going to get there. So I'm just going to say proceed. And let's see, button dash, it's called. And I'm going to do
do we, in HTML,
Yeah.
Is there like a visual line on it? Or when you have text go to the right as far as you need?
is there like a what element?
Well, usually in like Java or C, you want to keep it short. Is that like the case for HTML too, or is it just as long as you?
Yeah, it's basically as long as you really want to. Eventually, it'll like wrap on the page itself, like the text and everything. And I think you're talking about on HTML itself. There's like, it's fine to have. It's not based on spacing or anything at all, so you can have it go along, over and over and over again. Like you can have, like spacing doesn't matter. It understands where things are based on the starting and ending tags. That's a good question. Okay, so we have hello world, and then in that we have proceed. So if you click on the proceed button, it should go to page1.html. Oh crap, I messed up. We didn't actually make the page1.html yet. Let's go ahead and do that. So if you try to link to a page that doesn't actually exist, it'll give you some kind of 404 error. let's go ahead and get started on that. I'm going to go ahead and copy this to page1.html because I don't feel like rewriting all that HTML again. I didn't mean to do that. All right, cool. So we don't actually want to apply all of this to it. And we actually want to move. Yeah, okay. So I'm actually going to go through a little bit of Bootstrap's column system. So in architecture and tables and all of that, you have rows and then you have columns, right? Bootstrap has the kind of the same concept too. You have a row, and then within that row you have different columns. And so that's basically defined as giving a row class, and then every element inside that you would give a column and then how wide that needs to be. So each different div, each different class that you give needs to add up to 12 in the same row, which means 12 represents spanning the entire width of the page. So if I wanted to take up the entire width of the page in one row with a certain number of divs, let's say we had 3 of them, well, we want to make sure that each of those different divs have the width of 4 applied to them, because 4 plus 4 plus 4 is equal to 12. And more on that in a second, but yeah, the structure basically that we're going to go through is we're going to have an image on the left, and then we're going to have information about all of that image or that poster on the right. So let's see. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with a container. So I'm applying this custom class because Container Fluid has some extra CSS styling that I like better than just having a regular div in there. And I'm going to have div class is equal to Container Fluid, which basically, as I said before, means that we're going to go ahead and apply the container-fluid class to this. And the Container Fluid class is not actually something that we wrote, as you guys remember. It's something that's in Bootstrap. And let's go ahead and do div class is equal to row, because each row is going to have a different number of columns. So as I said before, I said 2 things. We want to have everything add up to 12 because we want everything to span the entire width, and then we also want to make sure that we give the proper heights or proper widths to each of those columns. So the first one is div class is equal to column-xs-2, and then let's see, content here. And then we have this again, content here as well. All right, cool. So we have a container fluid, and then inside that container fluid we have a row, and then we have a column-xs-2, and then we have a column-xs-10. So why did we choose 2 and 10? Well, because we want to make sure that the width of the poster, the width of the image itself is small, and then we want to have the width of the content of describing all of the stuff pretty wide. So I mean, obviously 10 is a lot bigger than the size 2, which means that the width of content here as well of that div is going to be 5 times the size of column-xs-2, which is content here. All right, let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Not great because it's over here. Okay, so we have content that's here. It doesn't look that great, so let's go ahead and add some content above it. So let's add, let's see, an H1 here saying, top TV shows, and then add a class text-center here. So we have top TV shows, but I don't like the background, so let's go ahead and change it. I have this background chosen on here, I chose this because it looks pretty clean as far as the background goes. There's not too much going on, and it doesn't distract from the content we have already here. So I'm actually going to create a whole different class for this body, and I'm going to call it, I don't know, background dash page 1. And you can name classes anything you really want to a certain degree. There are some things that CSS doesn't really allow as far as classes go. So let's see, we have there we go. All right, so we have bg-page1, and we're going to go ahead and add basically the same CSS as we did with bg-home, except with the URL, we're going to change it to the other URL that it shows. I think that's right. All right.
So what's the advantage of using these classes instead of the
Regular selectors for
grids instead of using these classes instead of using grids or tables?
Oh, a lot of it is the styling of tables versus columns and rows. Sometimes you'd rather use tables, sometimes you'd rather use rows. When you actually want it to look like a table itself, that's when you would use a table element. We don't really want to have those different, like we don't have sub sections at the top saying, okay, this is what this row is going to be called, and then this is where all the paragraph information is going to be called. So, like we don't plan on styling it and structuring it the same way as a table is. So there's no point in actually adding a table itself. And there's some cases when you're not sure which one you'd use, and in that case, I'd first use a table and then try out Bootstrap's grid system. Okay. Okay, cool. So we have bg-page1, and as you can see, the actual background changed. And so far, this is looking a lot better than it did before. So we have content here, and then we have content here as well. So the content here as well, that div is going to span from that left point until the very end. And the reason why it's not stretching out like that is just because of how HTML works. It doesn't automatically stretch it to the end of the page. It just means that the container that contains that can contain things up until the very end of the width of the page. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. If you guys have any questions, just raise your hand. And so, as I said before, we're going to have the image on the left-hand panel, or column, and then on the right-hand side we'll have the paragraph and the title of the TV show. So now that we have everything structured out, it's pretty straightforward. All you have to do is type img source is equal to, and then your source of your poster. And it already has the width and everything figured out for you up here. And then we can change this to the information about your different shows. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Mr. Robot. Cool. Got a fan. All right. All right. So we have Mr. Robot here, and then let's see how that is. Okay. So we have nothing here, but we want to make sure that we add. Copy the image address. Make sure you copy the image address, not copy the length of the HTML page itself, because otherwise you're going to get the HTML instead of the actual image. And a fast way to make sure you're getting the right thing, you're going to right click, and then you're going to get copy image address, which is going to give you the actual address of the image itself. And so I'm going to go ahead and add this as the source. There we go. Pretty cool, right? We already have an image on the left, and then we have the title, and then we can just basically copy and paste the information about the site down here. It was like this. Yeah. Alright, this is cool. So let's go ahead and copy that, and then I'm going to add it to a paragraph, because that's a really long series of text. And so it really matters where you put it on the page, on the HTML, because where you put it on the HTML is basically how HTML renders the page. That's how HTML understands your work. And so we have Mr. Robot, and then we have Mr. Robot follows Elliot and all of that stuff right below the title, so that HTML actually knows that Mr. Robot, the title needs to go above the paragraph element. All right, looks pretty good so far. Let's go ahead and do the same thing again. So we want another row because we want to add another TV show, and then we have div class is equal to column 2, and we have our source is equal to, what is the next thing? Oh, right. Okay. So let's go ahead and copy this, get the image address, paste it in here, and then add another column. And then add the H1 of the title of the show, and then add a paragraph right here. Let's go ahead and scroll down and go to the synopsis or the storyline right here. For some reason it ends in an ellipses, but that's okay. And no, USA did not pay me to list these shows. I actually watched them. All right, so let's go ahead and go to that first thing. All right, that's pretty cool. So we already have 2 shows going on this page. So we have Mr. Robot, we have Suits, and then we have the description for both of the shows. Well, for the next 3 shows, we just have to copy and paste that HTML, change the the source tags, and then as well as that, just change the title and paragraph information. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste that, three more times, so you get 5 different shows going on there. Okay. Okay, and as you can see, there will be 2 of these of Suits. And to fix that, we can just change the information for both of these. If you guys haven't seen any of these shows, you should really check them out. It's pretty awesome. That being said, I haven't finished Luke Cage yet. Alright. And let's go ahead and... I'm sure you guys are happy that I didn't come up with the storyline in front of you guys, because that probably would have taken forever. Alright. And then we'll just do this, one more time, or actually 2 more times. Okay. Let's see what this looks like so far. 2 of these. Yeah. I'll fix that.
So is there a way to make a for loop and just create that code?
Did you go to the Angular class?
Yeah.
That's basically what an ng repeat is. An ng repeat is
covered ng repeat in Angular class, but yeah, Angular repeats if you wrap around this basic HTML and CSS and would allow you to offer things like for loops and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so Angular basically gives you kind of programming functionality inside your HTML, which is pretty cool. if you want to know exactly how you would do that, you can just talk to me afterwards. Okay, so we have, let's see, for whatever reason, the loop cage is the one bigger than all the other ones. Maybe HTML is saying that I need to go ahead and watch that. So let's actually check it out. So what we can do to fix this is we can actually change the fixed height and width of all of these different images and make sure that they all have the same exact, width and height as all of the other ones. That's one thing we could definitely do. And I think that's probably the one that makes the most sense. So we can do this either one of two ways. We can actually apply the width and height attributes to these different images, or we can apply classes throughout them. I'm going to try the classes route. I don't know what I want to do. I'll probably do image, actually give it a certain width and height here. I have no idea how that'll look like, but okay, that's a little bit. It's better as far as, loop cage and respect to everything else. But it's a little bit, the width needs to be changed a little bit more. That's a little bit better. I'll just change the height to be a little bit more, and then it should be pretty solid. Yeah, all right, that's pretty good. So here's the issue though. We have like all these different things stacked with one another, right? There's no distance between the different images. So I'm going to go ahead and add another class. And yeah, we've only written 2 pages so far, and the second page is like 48 lines of HTML, and it's like not even that much functionality, which kind of shows you how awful HTML can be sometimes. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So okay, let's actually add a class to all these different divs. I'm just going to call it .margin. So we're going to add margin 10px to all of them. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough, so let's go ahead and apply it to all of these first. Oh, I put that in the wrong place. Nice. Let's see a little bit. Yeah, that looks better. There's more spacing in between these different rows now. And the awful thing about this is when you add a background, you can only have your content or that background show up for as big as that image is. So that's why part of this is not like showing up. I'm not going to go into how to fix that and all that with our CSS right now, but this is definitely a small thing that can be fixed by just getting a bigger image. There's a CSS way to fix it, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So we have 4 shows. I'm not going to copy and paste another time for you guys because, you guys can copy and paste on your own. But yeah, as far as the content goes, I hope you guys learned a lot. Let's see. Do you guys have any questions about what we went over?
I got all of it, but the thing about the CSS file is that why do you have that HTML comma body thing?
Sure. Yeah. Maybe I didn't explain it clearly, but so you have HTML and then comma body. So when you have comma in between different places, you want to actually apply this this over here, this property or whatever CSS we have inside there, to different places. So this, so we have an HTML selector here, and then we have a body selector here. So you putting commas in between that basically means, okay, I want to apply the CSS to both the HTML tags as well as the body tags. And I'm saying tags because it's going to try to look for every single body